Hey, it's Mazzy here. Welcome back. Can you do me a favor? Can we all stop comparing Donovan to Bob Dylan? I'm going to hear talk about this amazing album. I love Hurdy Gurdy Man from 1968. There's a new Impex audiophile recording, all analog tapes cut by Chris Bellman. I'll talk about that in a bit. I also have an original Epic from 1968, American, of course. I'll tell you why, and also a Sunday's reissue of Mono. Now, first of all, the Mono. Let's before I get into the whole story of this album, I need to talk about the history because that's an important part of this. The Mono, as nice as it is, as wonderful as it is, it's interesting. 1968 to me, and 67, late 67, psychedelia is all about stereo. So this is kind of a cool option. I would not pick it first, but the Sundays that Bill Irwin did back some years back, maybe 15 years back, is excellent. He did all these wonderful mono records because he used to work for Columbia. He did Epic and Mono and Moby Grape and Bob Dylan and, of course, Donovan and the Byrds. But we're putting that aside. And in terms of comparisons, I'm going to talk about the American U.S. original as well as this new Impex cut. But I want to talk a little about Donovan first and the history of this record and the DNA of this record. I recently read his autobiography. Thank you, Harry, for loaning me this book a couple months ago. And even he gets some of these stories wrong. This is a period of time where a lot of people misremember who was on and who played on what track and what album. Mickey Most produced these albums. He also produced Herman's Hermits and Jeff Beck Group and the Yardbirds. He was a sort of a producer, a pop producer, single savant. It was about the hit single for him. And he had a canny idea of what works and what didn't. But let's talk about Donovan and Epic Records. He was kind of, I hate to say the word screwed, but he was screwed in the U.S. with all his lawsuits with Pie Records, his folk years. These records didn't come out in the U.K. originally. Not until a comp later, I think it was in 69 or so, did some of these and some of his music come together, and not in this form. So these were American issues only originally, and he was much bigger in America. Had a lot of huge top 10 singles from 65, 66, 67, from Mellow Yellow to Sunshine Superman. Later, obviously this year, 68, Hurdy Gurdy Man, Jennifer Juniper, There Is a Mountain, and going into Atlantis in 1969. Great series of records. And a lot of great session musicians worked with Mickey Most. We all know about the little bit of was Led Zeppelin created because of Donovan? Did he invent Led Zeppelin? Indirectly, I think the answer has got to be yes. But that is something that I'll get into a little bit here too as I talk about these records. Now, the song Hurdy Gurdy Man came out of that Rishikesh Maharishi retreat with the Beatles and Mike Love and Pattie Boyd and Jenny Boyd and Mia Farrow and all those. And it was a really time of transcendental meditation. Donovan and George Harrison especially got into it. And that's the famous retreat where Donovan taught John and Paul that guitar picking style that they would use on several tracks on the White Album. Dear Prudence, Blackbird, I believe, a few other things back then. Just a really wonderful sound. But also it was reciprocal in a way because George Harrison really was talking and taught Donovan about the Indian tunings and the Indian sounds and Indian scales at the time that he was learning from Ravi Shankar and playing the sitar. George Harrison gives Donovan a tambura, a 4-string drone instrument that he uses on here. And it's kind of the genesis of the song Hurdy Gurdy Man. That was written there, brought back to the UK. He wanted to give it to Jimi Hendrix, but the producing Mickey Most said, no, that's such a great song. You got to keep it. And they tried to get Jimi Hendrix to play on that track, but he was unavailable. So they bring in Jimmy Page, who doesn't, by the way, do that great lead fuzz guitar. And that's where some of the controversy comes in. Jimmy Page is on the track doing a heavy rhythmic strum. He's on the album. On bass and in the arrangements is John Paul Jones, of course, the future bass player for Led Zeppelin as well. And two drummers are on the session, Clem Catini, don't even know who that is, and John Bonham. Some think John Bonham is on. I don't think that sounds like John Bonham on Hurdy Gurdy Man, at least not the way he was recorded later. So some people, even Donovan in his autobiography, says it was John Bonham. And he says the guitar lead, that great psychedelic lead fuzzed out thing, was Alan Holdsworth. But apparently others say no, it was Alan Parker. No one knows for sure. So it doesn't really matter. It's just a great track. But we always like to kind of say, oh God, this is the genesis. This is what became Led Zeppelin. I mean, Donovan was doing not only that psychedelic Baroque pop, he was doing sort of beat jazz stuff. He had a really kind of wonderful, with the flautist he would use on one track on this album and on tour, and his American tour. That was so great. It had that beat sing was happening, that, late 50s, Greenwich Village, North Beach, whole beat scene. He was very influenced by that. And it's just a wonderful interplay on here. There's really a mix of genres on here. You got the psychedelic pop, you got the Baroque pop, you got the music hall type songs like Paul McCartney wrote his entire career, like Your Mother Should Know and Honey Pie. And obviously Paul and Donovan have more in common than John and Donovan, definitely in terms of the songwriting. And he's got that beautiful Scottish voice, and when he speaks, it's just a wonderful, wonderful accent. But there is a Celtic thing, like he invented Celtic folk pop here at this time that we know Led Zeppelin would even use. Obviously, we know how Led Zeppelin pulled from a lot of areas, and Donovan is certainly one of those, with Mickey Most pulling this stuff together. So this is a really good album, but as I said, it's really a genre mix. Now, this is the Impex version, and this is the original version on Epic. The Impex version replicates that wonderful original yellow record. Now remember, the early records that Epic put out, the psychedelic pop records of Mellow Yellow, Sunshine Superman, if you bought those American stereo versions, they were rechanneled for stereo. The mono ones are to get on those. And finally, in 1968, Hurdy Gurdy Man was the first proper full stereo version of a Donovan record at the time, on Epic at least. This is the one. So of course this new Impex version is from the original master tapes, and they did an excellent job. Now there is a difference between the original and the Impex. And there was a discussion last year, if you remember, if you watch his channel or watched Michael Fremer's review of the Rhino Hi-Fi of television, there was a thing about artist intent, how the original television debut had a harshness, has a bite to it, has a, high-end push, and that the Kevin Gray was rolled off and made not what the artist intended. Now, I always thought that was a bunch of bollocks, that whole concept of artist intent. Half the time the artists aren't in the mix, and Tom Verlaine maybe wanted that then, and then the next album he wanted it a little rolled off a little bit. But, you're cutting things, you're remastering things for new equipment, new gear this time. There is a difference between these two. I would say the original is a hotter cut by far. When the tambura comes in on the opening song, Hurdy Gurdy Man, it's loud in the left channel, and then that electric guitar in the right channel comes out. That electric guitar by Alan Parker or Alan Holdsworth, whoever it is, it's a killer thing. And the way the drums are, it's just a great record. It's about the record, the recording. And sometimes, you could argue that when Mickey Most and Donovan would do these great singles, they almost were separate, like entities in the rest of the album. This period with Donovan, wasn't like a Beatle record where it's his whole creation. Again, this album, I would say, is more like the White Album, where there's a lot of different moving parts and sounds on here, as I said earlier. But again, the acoustic guitar might be crisper originally on here. I wouldn't say it's rolled off, but the mid-ranges open up more and are more apparent. I think the bass has a subtler feel to it. It's not mixed back. It's still up there. John Paul Jones's arrangement is wonderful on this. And I think this is definitely a more pleasing on a modern stereo system on this Impex. He did a great job to not change the intent of the record maker from 1968, but make it, I'd say, flow better. A lot of times on the records back here, the single would be one entity and it wouldn't fit in with the rest of the record, especially someone like Donovan, where the thing was done separately, it seems like, and then they would do the whole record. I think the first song on this that they recorded was Jennifer Juniper, written about Jenny Boyd, the sister of Pattie Boyd, George Harrison's wife, who was in Rishikesh, and Donovan was, I assume, involved with and wrote that beautiful song on here. West Indian Lady, drone Indian sounds on here. Tease, the sun is a very magic fellow, a sunny day. Donovan definitely has an upbeat poppy sound to it. But on the Impex one, I think the flow of all the songs seem to feel more consistent than the original. The original is a great sounding record, and mine's in great shape. I take care of my records, and if you have a copy of this, it is really a wonderful recording and a wonderful presentation. And there are differences in the sounds between tracks on this, where I think it kind of flows better together on the Impex. Going back to that television thing, when the Kevin Gray rolled things off, I actually liked the remastered version, the Kevin Gray cut, better than the original. It was more enjoyable on my stereo. Is it different than the original? Yeah, the hotter sound of that television original can be sort of abrasive. One may argue that's the way people wanted. That's that kind of punky, edgy, hot psychedelic crossover sound that television was doing at the time, very kind of edgy and atonal, and he didn't want it rolled off. Although in his later records, that was the case. So who knows? We can't even judge, and he's not here to tell the tale. Now, this Impex has that in probably, it's more nuanced than this, where this record is more in your face. If you like that in your face thing, this is something that probably would be your choice. But I tell you, if you don't have an original in good shape, and a lot of these were, played a lot, and then there's the insert with this beautiful, look at this wallpaper. Wouldn't you have liked that in your kitchen in 1968 or 69? I love that. Really nice. Illustration designed by Robert Sleeger. Love that. Love that. Anyway, the Impex record edition, here are all the credits. Producer Bob Donnelly, executive producer Avi Fawn, and on and on and on. Of course, Chris Bellman at Bernie Grumman Mastering, mastered and cut the lacquer. Did an excellent job. This has a essay here, Donovan essay, appreciation by Charles Granada, mostly about the song. It gets into the album a little bit. It's about the title song, title track, Hurdy Gurdy Man. And it's very obviously quotes from this wonderful autobiography by Donovan. This is the sweet spot of the audiophile reissue section. I love they do titles like this. In the last year or so, the one that surprised me, I'm just going to show this because of this is out of the box. This Youngbloods record, Elephant Mountain, this is incredible. And we just lost Jesse Colin Young in the last month. And I think this is a really interesting record. Of course, the two outstanding tracks are Darkness, Darkness, and Quicksand. Robert Plant, a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago now, did a great cover of Darkness, Darkness. There's a real mix on this, a real kind of jazzy too. So there's jazzy crossover with jazzy and rock and pop. And that beautiful tenor voice of Jesse Colin Young. I would say grab this as well. If you can order these, whether you order them from Impex or Elusive Disc, wherever you can get them, buy these two. And this is a surprise that they would do this record. I friggin' love this record as well. But again, me being the all-in on Donovan thing, this is excellent. And I am so psyched that they put this out. And it has a really great feel to it. And it's a wonderful listen. But again, a real mix of genres in one record. There's a couple of things that Impex or someone out there should reissue. Since you guys have a relationship with Columbia, Sony, Epic, whoever has it now. This record came out in early 68, recorded in 67. This was Donovan in concert. This is a great record, great sounding record. It's like didn't he come out sitting in a big pillow, and there's a certain Indian meditative presentation of this. This is really, really well recorded. Now, having recorded this in 67, he did a whole series of songs that weren't even out on records yet. And somewhat back in, I don't know when it was, this is an English release. I don't know if it came out here. This is the expanded CD session, okay? This is the entire concert where there's 23 songs. This obviously is the abridged version. As far as I know, there's never been a vinyl version of the entire live Donovan concert from 1967, the live in Anaheim, California. This is something that needs to come out on a double or triple, whatever vinyl version. I don't care. I want an all analog, you listening? All analog version of the entire show. The entire show. Record Store Day? I don't care when you do it, but this is my request. Come on, Impex, Donovan, whoever. And lastly, now this is probably a stretch, maybe, unless you have a different relationship. To me, one of the best Donovan records of late, and it's already been, was it been 20 years now? Produced by Rick Rubin. This is Sutras. This is a stunning record. Rick Rubin really tried to kind of do what he did for Johnny Cash with this record, and also he did it with Neil Diamond somewhat, maybe more successful than this. This really didn't do a lot, but this is a wonderful sounding record. This is a beautiful sounding record. I believe there may have been only a European vinyl version of this. I've never seen it. If there is, it's expensive. I know this is not Sony. Don't know who owns the rights. Whether it's Impex or any other label, this definitely needs a vinyl release of this beautiful, beautiful record. The recordings of the guitars, his vocal, upfront vocal. What I like about Donovan's records is that his vocal is up front. I like the tonality on the Impex of his vocal there. It's definitely up front and pushed hotter on the original, but I like the tonality here, and it's got a great, great feel to it. So I am a big fan of Donovan. That's why I wanted to take the time to, I don't always do features on one album. I'm doing more lately, actually, and there's more coming. But this is an excellent reissue, and I like that they're, even though this is boomer music from 1960s, I like that they're not doing the same records that have been reissued over and over and over again. Yeah, the mono came out in Sundays. That was, 20 years ago now? Probably 15 years ago. But the stereo version, and interesting that they got the tapes. Don't know if the tapes were sent to America, to Epic to do this, but whatever they got them, I love this record. So thanks for watching. Mazzy loves you.